Hello, friends. Today I'm talking about how to stop getting triggered by narcissistic family members. Okay. I get a lot of people that I work with in my coaching that still have to deal with family members. And sometimes, it's impossible. It's impossible to remove from your life everyone that is difficult or high on the scale of narcissism. So, what do you do if you're in a situation where you can't be away from certain people and yet they still keep triggering you and it's just emotionally overwhelming? Well, watch this video to the end because I'm going to give you 3 tips that really, really work. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a life and relationship coach, and I'm also the founder of the Thriver School of Transformation, which is an interactive membership where we meet together live weekly and we go over everything I talk about on my channel, and we find ways to put it into practice in our daily life. So if that's something that you feel you could benefit from, make sure you check out the description box below. Okay, so how do you stop getting triggered? I'm going to give you 3 steps that were really, really powerful for me. And I would love to hear your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Okay, so the first thing that helps, okay, number 1 is you have to heal the trigger. Okay, when we're being triggered by people, whether it's our family members, sometimes it's parents, sometimes it's adult children, sometimes it's coworkers, whatever the situation, when we're being triggered, sometimes we want the other person to stop triggering us. I especially hear this a lot with parents, right, that have adult children that may be on the scale of narcissism, may have a cluster B personality, and they want their child to stop doing things that triggers them. Or maybe you have to be around a parent in your adult life and those triggers are still getting touched on. It's funny because I had a client recently tell me, she's like, Michele, before I knew anything about the world of narcissistic abuse, before I even knew what that meant, what that word was, I used to call it the poking game. Like my friends or family, they would poke and poke and poke and poke until they found something that would cause an emotional reaction. And she goes, I didn't realize, the terminology of what was going on, but I knew that that was something that they did. So that being said, that's what narcissists do. We shouldn't expect them to stop triggering us because then our healing journey is dependent on their actions. And that's not very empowering. The best way to do it is to heal the triggers, which means you have to get in touch with the story that you're telling yourself when you're triggered, the wound or the core belief that's being poked so that you can heal it. So for example, when it comes to parents, right, they can make the scapegoated child in the family feel unlovable. And what some people do, right, if they either want their parent to not trigger that, that thought in them that they're unlovable, or they try to get that belief healed through the parent that's actually provoking the wrong belief in them, right? So their parent makes them feel like they're unlovable. And so you're constantly trying to prove yourself to that parent. And we can get stuck in that cycle for years and decades. The most empowering thing you can do to heal that trigger is to start learning that you can see yourself as lovable, even if the narcissistic parent doesn't. It's almost like you have to stop trying to see your value through their eyes. The more you can see your own value, the more you can see how lovable you are as a person, the more you can love and accept yourself exactly how you are now, that wound of I am unlovable gets healed because you begin to see I am lovable in my eyes. So it's not dependent on the other person. When you really believe that, when that becomes a belief inside of you, the other person can try to poke, right? They can try to hurt you. They can try to make you feel unlovable, but it won't work because that wound has been healed. Okay, so that's the first thing. And that takes time, right? And it takes time, it takes consistency, and it takes doing to yourself what the narcissist does to try to put negative beliefs in you. They use repetition plus emotion, right? They provoke you and then you feel bad over and over and over again. But you kind of have to point out you're good and attach a positive feeling for it, and then repeat that cycle over and over so that you can heal that wound. So it does take a little bit of time, but it is so worth the effort. The second thing that you can do to make sure that you are no longer triggered by your narcissistic parents is fully accept them as they are, which means you let go of expecting a different result from them. Einstein said, or people say it wasn't really him that said it, whatever, but the saying is, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. Okay. When you accept that this is who they are, yes, mom or dad is going to insult you. Yes, every time you're happy, they're going to try to point out something negative. Yes, every time you're becoming more independent, they're going to try to sabotage it. And you just notice it and notice that that's just mom and dad being mom and dad. It's not going to be like the rug being pulled out from underneath you. But when we don't accept it, we are still striving to see a different result in them. And we are in that insanity loop, right? They're proving who they are over and over and over again, but we haven't accepted the reality. And the reasons are there are good reasons for that, for the fact that it's hard, and I'll do another video on that. But the fact is, we haven't accepted the reality that that's them, and we haven't let go of trying to see something different from them. And because of that, that leaves you open to still being able to be wounded by them. And the third tip is to start training your mind to see your self-image, your self-identity, your core persona, your authentic self. Start training yourself to get to know you. And I know that may sound weird, but if you've spent years and decades of trying to get somebody else to know you, right? And they are always rewriting you and, changing how they see you, telling you things like you're so this and you're so that, and it's so far from who you really are. Your identity is a blur. You haven't spent enough time really knowing yourself because you're trying to get somebody else's attention. You're trying to get them to accept you, and you're so busy chasing that you're not being. But when you do that, when you strengthen your identity and you strengthen your perception, your autonomy, then you start feeling like you're in your body, like you're living your life. And yes, that means that the people that you've been chasing and hoping would be there for you, they may not be there for you. Because the sad reality is that anyone high on the scale of narcissism doesn't want to see you get better. So as you're getting stronger and more empowered, they tend to get worse and more cruel, right? But that's only because they know you're about to get free of their abuse, free of that cycle that they have you in of chasing after something that they'll never give. But if you do these three things, okay, it's about healing your triggers, which means upgrading your beliefs and, removing any limiting, disempowering beliefs and really strengthening your empowered beliefs. The second is accepting things that you don't like. Okay, remember, acceptance doesn't mean you like it. It just means that you're not trying to stop it from being what it is. Okay, so there's a part of accepting and letting go of what isn't real. And then the last part is really strengthening your own identity. Okay, if you do those things, the narcissist isn't going to change. They're not going to get better, but you will be getting better. You will feel a difference in you. Okay. And if you struggle with this and it's hard to do because you feel so alone on the journey, make sure you check out the Thriver School of Transformation, because we are an international group. We meet every week. It's a beautiful community of support. And in that way, you don't have to heal alone.